on Facebook Live. Hey y'all, thanks for joining. Type in the comments on Facebook to tell us where you're from and why you care about sanctuary at home and immigration.
All right, so hi everyone. I just fogged up my glasses coughing. If you're just joining us, welcome. My name's Ilana Berger. I'm the director of Hand in Hand, the Domestic Employers Network. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm calling from New York. We asked folks a minute ago to type in the chat box why they're joining, and we're getting lots of great responses, including because so many of my neighbors are immigrants, which is great to hear. Thank you, Jessica. Because immigrants are part of my family. Thank you, Sama. So folks, please feel free to continue typing in the chat box and let us know why you're here on this webinar. And also anytime you have questions or comments, please feel free to keep it as participatory as you like and chat us. I'm gonna quickly, before we get into this, introduce Hand in Hand. We're a national network of employers of nannies, house cleaners, and home attendants working for dignified and respectful working conditions that benefit employer and worker alike, because we understand that it benefits everyone when home workplaces are fair and just workplaces. And unlike many other labor, sectors of the labor world, we really understand that workers and employers need to work together to make this system work for all. Oh, right, we wanna make sure to everybody, because we're seeing the chats and everyone might not necessarily get to see them, that when you're chatting, there's that little blue box. You want to make sure it's set to all panelists and attendees, not just all panelists, because then we get to see all the comments, but not everybody does. So when you're chatting, please make sure you're chatting to all participants, not just all panelists. So I see Betsy from Columbus, Ohio was talking about, as a former teacher, she worked with amazing students who are immigrants, but only the panelists are able to see that comment, Betsy. So if you're able to change your settings to all participants, and attendees, then everyone can see your comments. So we're gonna start getting into the content of the webinar here, and I'm really excited to be here. For me personally, particularly this idea of the DREAM Act and young immigrants. My father came to this country from Hungary as a refugee after World War II and the Holocaust, and for him, he always talked to us about the fact that education was the most important thing, and they can take everything from you except your mind. And so as a pre-DREAM Act, this cycle of immigration, but he came here also as a 17-year-old, as a young person who was able to get to where to live a really great life based on the fact that he was able to be here and pursue an education and work. And I want the same for everybody. So a few more comments that are great. We're just all these people teaching in Michigan, which has many immigrants. Immigration is a human right. Hey, Marielle. So really good to see everybody joining us. I also really want to say I feel really privileged to be able to work with Hand in Hand and to be able to see the real solidarity that we've seen from domestic employers and other non-immigrant folks who've really acted in solidarity in this moment with immigrants from around the country. And I myself employ people to help take care of my children and occasionally clean our house. And I've been really aware in this political moment in particular how unique the relationship with domestic workers and employers can be, and how through our relationships we're capable of so much change and transformation. And there's Cristina walking around. Hi, Cristina, I'm really glad you can be here. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about sanctuary homes and our work in a minute. But we really do want to just talk about the main point around interdependence, that we're really clear that right now all we have is each other. And in this moment, one of the major acts that we can take is to support young immigrants and DACA recipients, and we hope all of us can be in this together and support each other. So real quick, our work with sanctuary homes is for everyone. We do have specific tools and resources that we offer.
Hi, Amy.
We have specific tools that we offer for, somebody's camera's on. Oh, that's Amy. Okay, hi, Amy. Yeah, that we offer specifically for domestic employers. So we just wanted to take a quick minute to do a poll. So you should be able to see a poll on your screen, and just quickly want people to answer if you have currently or ever hired a nanny, house cleaner, or home attendant, or a home care worker in your home. Just really quick so we can get a sense of who's here with us and how many people have been employers. So, but people are saying they don't see the poll. Can we get the poll up on the screen? All right, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, so if you could just real quick answer that poll. We can't vote. Yeah, we don't get to vote. Okay, so thank you everyone. Just another second. It looks like the poll should be up on the screen, and hopefully you're seeing that. And again, hope everybody's looking at the chat box because there's some great comments, and want to reiterate one more time, if you're chatting, make sure that you're setting your little blue circle thing is set to all panelists and attendees, not just panelists, so that everybody gets to benefit from seeing all these great comments.
And also, if you want to see everyone at once, you can go up and change it from speaker view to gallery view if you want to see all of our faces at once. If you only want to see who's talking at any given time, you can leave it on speaker view.
That's great. Okay, so we got about 70% of the folks on this call have actually hired nannies, so we'll make sure to at least point out quickly references for people who are employers, and want to just make sure people who don't employ a domestic worker know it's still great to have you here, because this is about all of us, immigrants, non-immigrants, again, acting in solidarity with each other and creating a society that's safe and welcoming for everybody. So we're happy to have everybody here. And I think we're going to get moving. Just before we start again, hello to everyone watching on Facebook Live. Please share the broadcast with your friends so they can see it too.
And if you've just signed in to Zoom, please keep writing in your name, where you're from, and why immigration is important to you. So during this call, we are going to build a clear understanding of immigration, DACA, and what we're up against with help from Cristina Jimenez from United We Dream. Hey, Cristina. We're going to talk about the importance of organizing employers and allies to support immigrant and workers. We're going to share actions so that we can take to create a safer and welcoming communities for all. Especially, we want to talk about how urgent the fight is to save DACA. This call should take no longer than an hour. So if you have any questions or thoughts that come up as we go, you can type them into Zoom or chat them into the Facebook live stream comments.
And without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce Cristina Jimenez, as we said, co-founder and executive director of United We Dream. Cristina, we're going to get to read a little bit of your bio. We could use the whole webinar to talk about your accomplishments, so we'll try to keep it short, but there's really a lot to say. So some of this is from Cristina's bio on the United We Dream page. But growing up, Cristina always knew she was undocumented. Originally from Quito, Ecuador, she came to the United States at age 13 and landed in Queens, where she still proudly calls home. As an undocumented young person, Cristina and her family experienced poverty, abuse by police, wage theft from employers, and fear of deportation. From a young age, Cristina made a decision to fight back against unjust practices that plague people of color and the immigrant community. She's been instrumental since she was a student organizer at Queens College of bringing the voices of immigrant youth to transform this country, and was also a huge part in organizing the successful national campaign that led to the creation of the DACA program under President Obama. She's trained tens of thousands of immigrant youth leaders and has grown United We Dream to be a powerful network of 48 affiliates in 26 states with over 400,000 members. So I just want to say we can't not talk about the fact that just last month, Cristina was awarded a MacArthur Foundation Fellowship, or also known as a Genius Grant. And I will just say personally, it is so exciting when we see real organizers leading the fight, winning those types of awards. I was so excited when I saw it, so congratulations. I know everybody in your life already knew you were a genius a long time ago, but it's great for you to get that acknowledgement. Yeah, and I think just to end, I will say that Cristina's work has really helped change the national conversation on immigration and create a new youth-led model of social justice organizing and movement building, and we are really honored to have you here, so take it away.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really grateful for all of you who are joining this conversation, and to you all, Ilana and others, for your leadership, for your soulful, grounded leadership in this moment, in this critical moment for our country, really. So I'm really excited to be here, and it's an honor to join you for the conversation today, particularly in this time for immigrant communities. So, you know, I'll appreciate the introduction. So I'll just really get down to, you know, what's going on in our communities right now, why it is so timely to have this conversation together, and how is this all connected to the future of our communities and the future of our country. So, you know, United We Dream members are all immigrant youth. Some of them are documented, some of them are undocumented, some of them have DACA. Many of them do not have DACA, and obviously all of them are part of families and communities all across the country. Um, we um, we knew in 2016 that the election was going to be a defining moment for our communities. Not because things, have been, not because the community has not been impacted by anti-immigrant sentiment and anti-immigrant policies in the past. But because that we knew that in particular for this election, there was a big platform that was used to generate a very hateful conversation around immigrants and around people of color and other marginalized communities, women, LGBT, trans communities, but also because there was a very concrete policy agenda that was being driven, particularly around um, terminating programs and policies that were already protecting people from deportation. In my own family, you see the impact of that. Both of my parents are undocumented. I grew up undocumented and was fortunate to be able to get a green card a few years ago. And my brother has DACA. And what that means is that my brother and my parents' lives are at stake in this conversation as it relates to the conversation around immigrants and about immigration, but also the policy impact. And right after the election, as we anticipated, there were very drastic and aggressive policy changes that made undocumented people, all undocumented people, a priority for deportation and a threat to national security. That was actually coded into an executive order that was issued by the new administration. And as of September 5th, we are seeing the termination of DACA, and we are also seeing terminations of other programs that are protecting undocumented families, like the temporary protection programs that provide relief from deportation to many communities that are coming from Haiti, from African countries, from Central American countries that are fleeing violence or that have fled natural disasters. And so the agenda is clear, right? We have seen an increase of deportations and detentions in the community. Just a few weeks ago, I'm not sure if all of you saw this, but this was widely covered in the media. A 10-year-old, Rosa Maria from Texas, with cerebral palsy was followed by Border Patrol agents. And these are agents from the Department of Homeland Security that are tax paying dollars cover. They followed her from her house to the hospital, a 10-year-old with this disability, and waited for her outside of her room until she got the surgery done to deport her. Because of our organizing and because many of you probably got engaged, made phone calls, and took action, we were able to save Rosa Maria from deportation and to reunite her with her family. So I want to thank you, right? Because those are the ways in which allies and many new people who are realizing how our communities are being targeted are making a huge, huge difference. So with that story, I wanted to share, both like the urgency of this moment and the terror and the fear that exists in our communities because of this aggressive detention, deportation agenda, and because this administration is making more and more people that had protection from deportation undocumented so that they can deport them fast. And in the midst of that, you both are seeing the courage of undocumented communities who are pushing back, who are organizing, and also you're seeing many of you and other allies across the country who are joining and saying this is wrong and we have to do something about it. And so, I think that it's helpful to think about the conversation that we're having in the context of the urgency of immigrant communities, but also in the context that ultimately this is not just a conversation that is isolated about immigrant communities. This is a conversation and a debate that we're having about the soul of this country, Who are we as Americans? What do we stand for? Which side are we on? Like, are we standing on the side of um, racist and white supremacist politicians that are pushing forward policies that reflect those values, like mass deportation? Or are we on the side of freedom and dignity and justice and ensuring that everyone in this country can live without fear and thrive in our communities? And to be very honest with you, there's no more time to be on the sidelines. We need to pick a side. And what has raised a lot of hope in our communities is that many of you have been really clear already, and many people in our communities have been very clear that we stand in the side of justice and ensuring that everyone can live without fear and be safe in our communities. And so to me, it's really important that we don't think about this, oh, this only affects immigrants. This is really about which agenda and which vision of the country is going to ultimately win in this conversation. And I know that all of us here and the majority of the country actually stand with us. So it's really a matter about how do we galvanize the majority of the country to join us in this moment. And this gets us to how can we do that together? Especially right now, given that this administration has been very clear with its agenda, has terminated the DACA program, which protected about 1 million young people from deportation. Now, all of them have been put at the risk of deportation. People like my own brother, Jonathan, who's 23 years old. And also, about 400,000 families are impacted by the termination of programs like the TPS program. So we're talking about 1.4 million people in our country, in our communities that this administration is putting back into a pipeline to fast deportation, whose lives are going to be upended if we don't take action. And so the good news here, right, in this very awful picture, horrible picture of what this administration is doing, is that we can do something to change that, to disrupt that. And right now, you have communities that are organizing, like United We Dream and many of our allies, and we have been working with the National Domestic Worker Alliance and many others to ensure that we are mobilizing members of our community to push Congress to take action. Because it's really important to understand that just like many of us took part in defending healthcare access for millions of Americans, and we were able to achieve that victory together of protecting healthcare access, we can do the same if we push Congress to do the right thing for our country. And that is passing the DREAM Act as soon as possible. Like, there, we cannot wait, because the reality is that every day that passes, more and more young people become vulnerable to deportation. Just last week, the Center for American Progress mentioned a report that about 7,000 young people have already lost their protection from deportation that was terminated by this administration. And so the lives of young people are already at risk. Just this week, we heard that Border Patrol has detained another young person with DACA, and they're trying to deport this young man. So every day that passes, it means that we have more time for this administration to keep deporting our members, the members of our community, and our loved ones. And so it is critical that in this moment, we seize the power that we have and the power of the majority of this country to call on Congress to push for the DREAM Act. And a very quick note here, what we are demanding is for a clean DREAM Act. Now, what does it mean to talk about a clean DREAM Act? We all know that as much as we have the majority of the country in support of the DREAM Act, that there are also conservative voices and oppositional voices that are saying, we still need to deport more communities. We still need to build the wall. We still need to increase enforcement and punishment on these communities. And in fact, that's much of what Republicans have said that they want in this debate. And so what we have been clear is about that we cannot put young people in a situation that they will be used as bargaining chips. And we completely refuse to do that. And there's no way, and it will be immoral to say, young people should accept a policy that protects my brother, for example, from deportation in exchange of my parents getting deported. So that this is very important when we're doing our advocacy and we're taking action. That is why we're asking for a Clean Dream Act. And that is also why we're demanding Congress that they pass legislation that protects TPS families in a permanent way so that they are not deported. So you can make a difference. And the way to engage is that we have less than 30 days in this Congress. And as I share with you, every day that passes, more people are getting deported from our communities. You can join us by calling members of Congress to pass a Clean Dream Act right away. And you can also, what we also need to do is the members of Congress in the country need to hear that all of us care about these communities, that all of us care about how hateful, racist policies and an agenda can now win and will now win. And so hearing from you, hearing your stories, we're about to go into a recess in November when members of Congress will be going back to their districts and back to their home states. And it will be so powerful if they hear from many of you who are saying, I may not be directly impacted by this, right? I may not be an undocumented person. I may not be someone who may lose a direct family member. But as an American, I care about this because this is against the values of our country and we need you to take action. And share why you care. Why do you care about this? And so I do think that that is critical, whether that can, be through social media and also by visiting your members of Congress when they're in town for recess. It gives you a huge opportunity to do that right now. And also by receiving correspondence from you and calls. You can check out the site weareheretostay.org. weareheretostay.org, and there you will find all of the information about the many types of actions that you can take, but also how to have courageous conversations with your community and family members who may say, actually, I don't think it's wrong to deport people. What do you say to that? And I think that this is the time for us to really be engaging in those courageous conversations, not only for the sake of my own family, my parents and my brother, but really for the sake of this country. And looking back years from now, really being proud about the courageous decisions and steps in which allies and members of our communities took a stand to ensure that our country did not lose sight of the values and the vision that we have for it. So with that, I'll stop it here, and I'm happy to answer any questions for how to move forward and engage.
Oh, Cristina, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. You are so inspiring. And you really call all of us to rise up to our highest levels of action. We have one question for you right now, which is from Rue in San Antonio, who says that they haven't seen any info on Rosa Maria this week since Rosa Maria was reunited with their family, and they want to know if she is safe as possible. Can y'all unmute Cristina? There we go.
Yes, sorry, I'm unmuting myself. We are doing everything that we can to do that. And many community organizations in the state of Texas have come together to ensure that the family has what they need. We're working in partnership with advocacy organizations like the ACLU, who actually started litigation around this case. To ensure that this family is as protected as possible. And we've also made sure, for example, that if they have time right now to be reunited as a family and to not be inundated by much of the press interest around this story. And so we're also ensuring that we're protecting the privacy of the family if they desire to be, but also on the legal front, as well as other resources that the family needs.
Cristina, that's amazing. Thank you so much. If anybody else has questions for Cristina, please just type them down in the box. If you have any more questions, you can type them down in the box. There's one here, Cristina, that says, please remind us where on the United We Dream website they can find some of those direct action for allies. And also remember that we're going to be walking you guys through in the next 10 to 15 minutes some actions that you guys can take home for Thanksgiving. We want to bring the dream home for Thanksgiving.
That's awesome. So you can check out weareheretostay.org. One word, that's the site, weareheretostay.org. And if people also want to be on notice about the different activities that we have, people can text Dream Act Now to 877-877. Dream Act Now, one word, to 877-877.
Don't see it. Oh,
Yeah, Rabbi Catherine, can you just type your question into the chat box? There we go.
all right. Okay, so it feels like less of a question, but more of a statement about how many people have ended up in this country because of policies and programs that the United States has pursued over the years that has destabilized some of the countries to the south and in Central America. So yes. Cristina says yes to that.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's the story of my own family. In Ecuador, there were policies that were backed by the U.S. for the banks to take over the country in the 1990s. The banks took over the country, stole the money from millions of people in Ecuador, savings of a lifetime for many people. And that was the beginning of a crisis that led to people fleeing Ecuador in millions. And, that included my family. So absolutely.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's not wonderful, but it's wonderful that you were here and that you are continuing to fight for justice and equality for all of us, not just you, because all of our freedom is bound up in yours. Yeah? Okay, so.
So Cristina, thank you again. I know that we don't want to take your time. I know that you had to go. I think you're in transit somewhere, but it was super helpful to have you here, and we're excited to continue to partner with you. And for the rest of the time we have with everyone.
Can I just say something quickly before I leave?
Oh,
Thank
please.
you so much, everyone. You are a big part of why I am hopeful about this moment, a very terrifying moment for our families. And we're seeing you showing up in so many ways. I want to thank you. And this is what our country is really about. It's really seeing that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, and that we're going to be staying together. So I look forward to engaging with all of you in the next few days, that we have a short window of time to make sure that our communities are protected from deportation, and that we do the work that we need to get done to get Congress there. Lastly, we're going to have a big mobilization on December 6th. So check the site, and if you want to join us, please, this is a day to be in solidarity with all of us that is coming up real soon. Thanks so much for having me.
Cristina, will you tell us, we put in the chat box, what is the site we should look at? We have it in our toolkit too, talking about the mobilization, but where should we look to get all the information, all the details?
It will be on weareheretostay.org.
Great.
Yep.
We will do everything we can to promote it and get people there too. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, Cristina.
Right.
So if that didn't get everybody motivated to take action, I don't know what will, because I feel ready to right now, like, just leave and go make all my phone calls, but I will stay for the next half hour so we can do this. So really, we're going to do two things with the rest of this call. And folks, keep the chats coming, because it's awesome to see everybody's commentary here too. We're going to do two things. One, we're going to tell you a little bit about Sanctuary Homes, which is sort of the broader campaign that Hand in Hand is doing. Part of Sanctuary Homes is acting both long-term and proactively to create communities that are safe and welcoming for everyone. But part of what that means is responding and reacting when we need to, whether it's when there's raids or deportations happening, or when there's an urgent thing. We have 30 days to get a DREAM Act passed. Like, we have to act. So we're going to do a little bit about sanctuary homes, but then give you a bunch of stuff to do so that we can be part of helping to pass the Clean Dream Act, including, like Autumn mentioned, some stuff that you can do to multiply the participants on this call by 10 or 20 or 30 by sharing, having conversations with your friends and family at Thanksgiving and getting them to act as well. But I just want to do a real quick sort of background about sanctuary homes. And really what sanctuary homes was a very immediate response post-election that Hand in Hand did when we realized that there's a very unique relationship, again, between domestic workers, many of whom are immigrants and some undocumented, and employers, and that employers offer, that can do a lot to support people in a time that we were really clear people are terrified. So we put out some tips post-election on how employers can support workers, and we got this overwhelming response, like thousands of people being like, this is the person who cared for the people I love most in my life. I will do anything. How can I help? So we were like, wow, we better provide some stuff for people to do. A lot of what was happening at the same time also was that there was a lot of fear and concern about ICE raids and deportations, and folks were like setting up, being prepared to offer sanctuary. And we realized that it was great that so many people wanted to sort of shelter somebody in a church or even in their home, but actually for the vast majority of people, that wasn't what they wanted or needed. And we didn't want to like be waiting around for the worst case scenario. We wanted to be doing work immediately to create, again, a proactive, safe and welcoming atmosphere for people, whether or not ICE actually came into a community. So we created a bunch of tools for people, again, to do really proactive commute and building sort of communities of care and resilience. So the sanctuary homes sort of set of activities, you can see it all right here. It was really about, you know, we do all this work out marching, we're at the Women's March, wherever we were, but how are we living our politics back home and how are we acting on these values? So 3 levels of work. There's things as an employer or as an ally. A bunch of people in the chat box said they know lots of immigrants in their neighborhood or in their community. So you put a sign in your window, which you can go on our website and download, that just talk about how people are welcome here and declaring your house a sanctuary home, which means a lot of different things. So posting signs, having conversations with people who work in your home. I think we forget. I'm saying this to the folks who employ. There's an assumption that people who work in your home know which side you're on. Like Cristina talked about this, which side we're on. They don't necessarily. And so have you checked in and just made sure that they understood that you're not happy with what's happening and you want to do anything you can to support them and their families. We have some guides on how to do that in a good way. And then just, you know, we have guides about how to host neighborhood conversations about immigration, about sanctuary, and also then how to get involved in sort of organizing efforts. So that's sanctuary homes. We really believe all of us have a role to play in making our homes and our communities sanctuaries, especially, again, for people who employ domestic workers, but for all of us who have close relationships with anyone coming from various communities targeted by the Trump administration. So with all that said, again, rapid response also, right? Like we need to act when we are called upon to be in solidarity with our friends in the immigrant rights movement, and now is that time. So we have, today is a National Call-In Day. We're gonna talk about how everybody here in 1 minute can call their member of Congress and also share our Thanksgiving toolkit to get you well equipped to talk to your friends and family. But as we get, Autumn's gonna sort of start, we're gonna share a few more people who've done some of this work. But if you are ready to commit to taking action on DACA, can you please press +1 in your chat box right now? We wanna see who here is ready to take action on DACA. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can, again, share this broadcast and let's see, everyone's ready to take action. Okay, so here we go.
All right, so we've been talking a lot about DACA and also about domestic workers. And Hand in Hand, we are a sister organization with the National Domestic Worker Alliance. And we have Tatiana here, who works with the amazing Violeta Gomez Uribe, who is one of our Hand in Hand leaders, who is also a DACA recipient. And Violeta was sick and couldn't join us today, but Tatiana, who is our New York Sanctuary Homes organizer, has stepped up to read a statement from Violeta. So I'm gonna just get quiet and let's listen to Tatiana.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm also an immigrant woman from Peru. I'm very inspired and moved by Cristina and, of course, the work of Violeta, one of our member leaders in New York City, for her activism, and she's my dear camarada. So I will read today her statement. And it says, my name is Violeta, and I am a member of Hand in Hand in New York City. My mother was a domestic worker, and I am a dreamer, one of the 800,000 young people who were protected by DACA during the Obama administration. As a dreamer, I'm living in a state of disbelief and uncertainty, waiting to find out whether DACA will continue or be ended for good. If it ends, it means that myself and others can renew our right to live and work here, in the only home most of us have ever known after this Thursday. We won't be able to take care of our aging parents or our young relatives. We can't finish college or earn a living. Domestic workers like my mother are experts in taking care of people, whether as nannies or home attendants, or holding together a family putting down roots in a new country, or even a family stretched across 2 countries. Stand with me, your fellow hand-in-hand members, and 800,000 dreamers as we fight to keep our communities and our families whole.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you, Tatiana, and thank you to Violeta, and we hope you feel better soon. Violeta is a DACA recipient. Her mother is a domestic worker, and many domestic workers who are women of color or immigrants are also DACA recipients themselves, or are the parents, often mothers, of DACA recipients. And so this is a very interconnected issue for us at Hand in Hand and for the broader immigrant community and immigration fight. So at this point, everybody has said, yes, they're ready to take action. And the first step is to have a conversation. Sometimes having conversations, whether it's with someone who works in your home, who is your domestic worker, if you're a domestic employer, or for someone who lives and works in your community, maybe you know them at school, maybe they're students. Sometimes these conversations can be a little nervous-making. And sometimes we get like all excited and we want to know how can we have a courageous conversation, as Cristina mentioned earlier. So we wanted you to hear about it from someone who has done this work. So I'm going to introduce Amy. Amy, and I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Amy Suplina, who's a Brooklyn mom and employer who's been involved in the fight for domestic workers' rights for a long time. And after Amy talks, then we're going to learn more about sanctuary homes and about bringing the dream home for Thanksgiving, which I know you guys are psyched about, and all the actions you can take in the next 30 days to protect the 800,000 young folks who are counting on us. So come on in.
Can I think you have to use my video. It's saying there we go. Start my video. Okay. There I am. Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you so much to Hand in Hand and Domestic Workers and Cristina for all her wisdom. So my name is Amy, and yes, I'm a parent in Brooklyn. I'm sitting in the closet at my work. So sorry if I'm a little dark here. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what I've been up to and the folks in my community have been up to help give you some ideas. As some of our speakers have shared already, I think the most important thing to do to start this work is to have the difficult but important conversations with those in your lives who are immigrants, who are domestic workers. I did have a conversation with the woman who cleans both my business and my home. And I came to find out that her children have benefited from DACA, and they are now in college, and they would obviously be very affected if this were to be fully repealed. So having those difficult conversations, I'm also in the process of hiring a new nanny for my children, and I've been trying to be as explicit as I can about where I stand so that people can share if they have challenges around payroll or, are fearful of becoming, getting on the Social Security rolls for whatever reason at this point, given the environment. I think it's important to just have those conversations. So I think the posters that Hand in Hand and the Sanctuary Homes campaign has shared is a really important tool, because it just shows right from the beginning when someone enters your home where you stand, and you can also share with them what it means and what the organization is doing. I've taken it a step further with my neighbors. We have a little block association, and we started to do some organizing, both with the Sanctuary Homes campaign, but some other immigrant rights groups. And we have the Hate Has No Home here, posters that are starting to appear down the block. We ordered them, and my children went around and rolled them up and put them in everybody's mailboxes over the last couple of weeks. So as you walk down our block, you see more of that, and it's a much more visible campaign. And I saw someone ask the question earlier of like, well, we all live in blue states. Like, is this really important, or what else can we do for red states? And you'd be surprised that there are people on my block in like progressive Brooklyn who are like, don't put this on the association block. We don't want to hear about this. Create your own group. And we've had to create a whole nother group that's like for political stuff on the block because people aren't comfortable with it. So just being visible, even in places where you think are like safe states is, or safe communities, is really important to be very visible in this work. The other thing is having explicit conversations with your domestic partner or your spouse, and if you have older children about what role, if things do get very serious and people do start to get deported, what role you're comfortable playing, so that's clear. And then educating the people in your home, whether it's your domestic workers or other people who work in your home, about their rights, that you don't have, if somebody does show up at the door, an ICE agent or anybody else, that you know that you can say no, and that they need to have the right documentation in order to enter your home. So making sure you, like, if you have older children who might be home alone, that they're able to know that information and not just let them right into the door. So I think that's important. Having explicit conversations at Thanksgiving, like we said earlier, is super important. I'm about to go home to my 25th high school reunion, and I know just from like Facebook that not everybody agrees in my high school, my old friends, with the work that we're doing here. And so having some of those hard conversations and really trying to tell personal stories. I think telling personal stories is the most effective way to get people to realize, oh, this person in my life who's my friend, like maybe they're going to be impacted by changes in the legislation, and really initiating those conversations. Using your privilege to speak to family members is really important. Having difficult conversations around the dining room table, is super important. And then those allies you do find along the way, like inviting them to be part of these action networks, whether it's joining Hand in Hand or the Sanctuary Homes campaign, or any other immigrant rights campaigns, getting on the list for rapid response in places that maybe need a little bit more of a push, red states or states that need more support, really inviting people to be part of the list so that they can get these actions and take action. So those are some initial thoughts. Also, one other thing that I think is a little more obscure, but I would be amiss as a yoga teacher not to mention this, is doing things for people in your lives, whether it's your domestic employees or friends, to support their mental health. And like at my studio, we offer yoga for anxiety and depression. We also offer chronic stress and fatigue workshops. And so, gifting people things like that might support them and give them tools to care for themselves when they're dealing through this really stressful period is like another way to be a really good ally. So those are a few thoughts.
Thank you, Amy. That was amazing. And I know actually the United We Dream has a whole mental health toolkit on their website also. I think all of our partners in the domestic worker movement this last period of time have talked about how much time they've spent just being a place where workers who feel very traumatized and really depressed and terrified have come for support. So I appreciate you bringing up the mental health side of this as well. And just thank you for all of the steps you talked about. I think like the core of it and all the stuff we're about to tell you can do is about don't make any assumptions. Talk to everyone. You got to talk to your neighbors, people who work in your home, your family members, your high school 25th reunion. That's actually a great place. You can get a lot of people and get a lot of good conversations. So really appreciate that. So I'm going to ask everybody, you can go, and I think we have a slide here about our website. mysanctuaryhome.us has a lot of these resources. We put it in the chat box too, but you can sign up for Sanctuary Homes, so we'll continue to send you information about Sanctuary Homes, but emergency planning, stuff that you can do with a worker in your home, conversation guides, red cards that you can use about the Fourth Amendment and protecting your home, a bunch of legal resources, as well as guides to have conversations with your neighbors. So hope you all can pop on that website right now and sign up so we can continue to share information with you. And now we're going to get on to talking about taking action specifically around DACA in the next 30 days.
Okay. Also, Amy, I just want to say I love Bend and Bloom, which is your yoga studio. Thank you so much for all the amazing work that Bend and Bloom does in the community. So I'm excited to unveil how you guys can all take action to support the Dreamers. And I can see in the text you guys are like raring to go. Like I'm watching you guys share information of all of these amazing resources that you've all found. And that excitement is amazing and we want to harness it. So the way that you can, let's just give Alana a little love. She's here in spite of this cough. The way that you can take action to support the Dreamers is, remember, we want Congress to pass a clean DREAM Act. And we want it to happen before the end of the year. And this will allow young immigrants to stay in this country. Immigrants and refugees will be able to stay in this country that they call home. Many of them have never lived anywhere else that they can remember. This is their home. And we want to do this without Trump or anyone else getting a single extra dollar for immigration enforcement. This is not going to happen without all of us standing up, without a fight. So our friends at United We Dream, Cristina, Jimenez, and also the National Domestic Workers Alliance are part of this movement, and they are leading the fight, and we want to stand up to support it, right? So this is us being amazing allies. And to keep the pressure on, we need more people to join. We need people who are not immigrants, not the people who are being most targeted, but those of us who are willing to stand side by side and shoulder to shoulder. So to get you guys to act in support and solidarity, we're going to ask you guys to fill out these polls, right? So we're going to talk about the best place to start. And the best place to start is your friends and your family and your representatives. So will you call your representative today and ask them to support a clean DREAM Act by the end of the year? So for everyone who is willing to call your representative today is the National Call-In Day, right? All our friends, Cristina, and all of our friends at United We Dream, today is their National Call-In Day. So if everybody is willing to press yes on that poll.
And at the end of this call, we will put the number on the screen. It gives you a script. All you need to know is your zip code. It's very easy. Very, very easy thing to do.
And to Marielle and anyone else who's already called, you can still press yes, even if you've already called. Okay, so that's the first poll. So the second thing that we want you guys to step up is to see if you can get involved to become part of Sanctuary Homes is, will you have a conversation? Will you bring the dream home for Thanksgiving? Will you have a conversation with your friends and your family, whoever you are sitting around this table, about a clean DREAM Act over the holidays?
And we have a toolkit that somehow we did not mention earlier. I think that was my fault. Oops. But there was a toolkit up on our website that hopefully Carolyn can post in the chat box here, that gives you guides to how to, So that's guides on how to have the conversation, a bunch of cool resources, but all the ways, and it doesn't just have to be at your Thanksgiving table. It can be at your high school reunion, which often happens around Thanksgiving time. It can be when you're all at the bar with your friends, but want to make sure that people are going to take this home. Looks like we have 100% said that they're going to do it. That's amazing.
100% will have a conversation with friends and family. That is amazing. Wow.
Excellent.
Wow. All right. So the next one is, will you ask your friends and family to also call their congressional representatives on or the day after Thanksgiving? So this is while you're sitting around the table or the day after, which it turns out is not a congressional holiday. So your Congress offices should be open, and if they're not, your messages will still make a difference. So if you can commit to asking your friends and family to make those phone calls, please say yes now. Yes, Rue, I see that you do have some tough nuts to crack in San Antonio, and we want to help you have those courageous conversations. I was in San Antonio just a couple months ago, and I can testify that you do have some tough nuts, but you also have some amazing folks. So yes, anyone who will ask them to make calls to Congress. Wow, so it looks like 2/3 of you guys are going to ask their friends and family to make calls to Congress. This is amazing. All right, last poll. So between now and December 6th, this big action with United We Dream, December 8th, December 6th, will you drop by to visit your Congress member and ask them to show support for immigrants by supporting a Clean DREAM Act before the end of the year?
And again, our toolkit gives you a little guide, and you can always email us as well if you want additional support. We can help you hook up with some other people in your area if you want to join with others too. But it's not a lot of work to just organize a small drop-in to show up at your congressional office and ask. So
yes. All right. So nice. You guys are amazing. More than half of you are going to ask your friends and family to make calls to Congress. Oh, wait, no, that was the 2/3. Sorry. I jumped ahead. I thought this was like more than half of you are going to go visit your congressmember. And I was like, that's amazing. All right. Nice, you guys. Thank you so much. It looks like 85% of you guys. Thank you so much, Thais, for doing the math for me quickly. It looks like 85% of you guys will visit your Congress members. I'm so inspired by all of you guys who are willing to do this work. So don't forget to go to mysanctuaryhome.us and call Congress. Right now, we're going to get off the phone and is there more?
yeah, just a little more.
Oh, all right. So for folks on Facebook, we're going to post a link to all the actions so you can sign up too. And yes,
you should share it.
You should share the toolkit. That would be amazing. We've created this special action kit. We're calling it the Bring the Dream Home for Thanksgiving. This special action kit will give you all the background you need to take each action you commit. For everyone who signed up and gave us your email, we are going to make sure that we're going to make sure that we follow up with you and make sure you get this toolkit. And then I think I said toolcat, I mean toolkit. And the toolkit will offer background on DACA and the DREAM Act, the best way to have conversations about it with people, even when you don't agree, courageous conversations, and it will have concrete actions you can have your friends and family take, including making calls. And if you do yours today, you'll be a pro, so you can walk your family and friends through how to do it, and up to and including drop-in visits to Congress. So we'd like you to join everyone in this call. If you haven't already, we want to invite you to join Sanctuary Homes, which is about being allies to those who are most targeted, most affected by DACA and by some of the immigration tactics that the administration is using to divide us from each other. And so today is our National Call-In Day. So I can see that you guys have got this page up. So we're gonna have everybody call this number. It's 1-844-641-3873. That's 1-844-641-3873. And that brings us to the end of the call. So,
and one thing, we're also going to get a follow-up email that will have the toolkit and all this other information. Please feel free to share. I saw people ask that. We want this, if we multiply who's on this call by 10 or by 20 or by 30 or by 100 by sharing on Facebook and at Thanksgiving, this is how we really make an impact. So please share widely. If you want to share information about the call-in day as well, get your friends and family and everyone to call today as well, and on Thanksgiving. And then back to that.
Okay, so I want to thank you guys all for joining us today, and also for volunteering to get to work building stronger connections in our communities. We know that right now things are scary. The fact that grown people are following a child and stopping the ambulance that she's in, which is what happened to Rosa Maria, is unacceptable in our country, right? And so in these scary times, we are all going to make the effort to bridge the gap and reach out to immigrants and others who are under attack in our communities, and that will make all the difference. So thanks for joining forces with Hand in Hand to build sanctuary homes, sanctuary communities. And I want to remind you that our relationship does not end after this call. As soon as we are done here, we will email you with next steps and resources so you and your friends and family can get involved with sanctuary homes. So thanks again for joining us. And as always, it is truly an honor to be a part of this movement with y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again to Cristina, Violeta, Tatiana, and Amy. So we're going to end with a virtual chant. So as we get off the call, we want everybody to get ready in your comment chat, and we're going to all shout Sanctuary Homes into the chat box. So ready? We'll all type Sanctuary Homes as a big goodbye, and then we're going to go and make these calls as soon as we're saying something else.
Go ahead.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Sanctuary Homes, y'all.